S4EP35 podcast, a show centered by people with learning disability for our students and community. We talk about issues that are important to up and interview interested people to find out new information. This is our aim to make a difference and have our voices heard.
Hello, and welcome to the People First podcast. This week we are excited to be doing an episode all about Andy's Men's Club. Talking about men's health is very important, especially mental health. To talk to us about looking after our mental health and Andy's Men's Club, we have Andy joining us. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me in.
How did Andy's Men's Club start and how has it grown over the years?
Really good question. Andy's Man Club actually started back in 2016. That was after where it gets its name. A young man called Andrew Roberts from Halifax unfortunately took his own life. After that, his family wanted to do something. They wanted to make a difference. His brother-in-law is a guy called Luke Ambler, used to be a professional rugby player. He had this idea for a coffee club for guys, just a place where guys could meet up. Between Luke and then Andy's mum Elaine, they had a few conversations backwards and forwards, came up with the name Andy's Man Club, and started these coffee clubs, basically. They are just talking groups for men, safe space for guys to come along and share their stuff that they might have going on in the world.
Can you introduce yourself, please, and tell us more about your job role?
Yeah, absolutely. So as we said, my name is Andy. Kind of conveniently working for Andy's Man Club, but there are many Andys. My role currently is what we call an area lead. So I am an employee of the charity now. I look after several clubs around my area, which currently is Calder Valley and Ayr Valley. So out in Keighley especially. I also get to do things like podcasts, getting out and meeting members of the community. I do a lot of going into businesses, talking about Andy's Man Club. I did start out myself as a user, as did all my colleagues in this role. Started out as a user back in January of 2018. Kind of different to most guys because I didn't actually join Andy's Man Club for myself. It was part of me trying to find some help for my son, who was going through a little bit of trouble. And yeah, we found Andy's Man Club, and I took him along that to get him some help. I'm still here. We'll get into it a little bit further in one of the questions coming on. All our groups are run by volunteers. We call them facilitators. I became a facilitator not too long after joining. Ended up running the Halifax Club for a couple of years, and now, like I say, I've become an employee. Just had my 2-year anniversary in this role.
Can you describe for us what happens in a meeting at Andy's Man Club?
Yeah, so that's the same at all our groups. I mentioned earlier we started in 2016 with one group in Halifax. We have since grown quite considerably since then. We've now got over 300 groups around the UK, and we do run online groups as well, and they all run pretty much the same way. We have one of our volunteers stood outside every group waiting for people to come in just to say hello. They're there as a greeter, much like I was greeted when I turned up here today. We get everybody in then, there's free tea, coffee, nice coffee here by the way as well also, always a bonus. There's free tea, coffee and biscuits at all the groups, let the guys get in. 7 o'clock is when we aim to start. If the venue's got enough space, we get everybody together and just have a little intro first, and then we'd probably split off into smaller groups, because our groups are questions and answers, much like we're doing today. The facilitator asks the question, he'll answer it first to lead by example, and then we have a ball that gets passed round. He passes that round his group so everybody gets a go. My question one is always, how's your week been? simple question. Everybody can answer that. It's just, yeah, I've had a great week or I've had a bit of a rough week, whatever. Question 2 then is always, give us one positive from your week. The idea of that is that if you're going through a bit of a rough patch, it can make you look for those positives, give you a little bit of a lift up sometimes. Question 3 then is anything to get off your chest. So that is the guy's opportunity to talk about their stuff, what they've got going on in the world. Now we would have a break then, just a chance to get another cup of coffee or whatever. The last 2 questions, they change every week. And they're generally structured to be something a bit more positive. A good example of that is something along the lines of, where is your happy place and why? It's something that you do, something that you can talk about, that you're interested in, hobbies, whether that's creating podcasts or whatever, something that you enjoy doing. And then the way that works then is other guys in the room might hear about new stuff that they think, I might fancy giving that a go myself. And then question 5 would be usually a bit of a silly question, quick fire to finish on. What flavour crisps would you put in a crisp sandwich? Just something light-hearted. And that's pretty much it. All the groups run the same. You know, end of the day, it's just a bunch of guys having a bit of a chat with an opportunity thrown in there to talk about what they've got going on.
What are your biggest pieces for advice for men to help with their mental health?
That's another really good question. And there is no simple answer to that, to be honest, because what works for one might not work for another. Different things work for different people. Talking is a massive help. It's one of our many slogans. Anybody that looks into us all will see this hashtag, it's okay to talk, and it certainly is. You know, if you've got your own stuff going on, those thoughts can bottle up a little bit and spin circles inside your head sometimes, and just getting that out there, verbalising it and talking to other people can be a big help for that. You know, a lot of people find getting, not necessarily today because the weather's lousy, but getting out in nature, just going for a little bit of a walk, things like that can be really beneficial. There's all sorts of things out there. The best piece of advice is try, certainly from my perspective. You know, there might be some fantastic stuff out there waiting for you. Unless you try it, how are you ever going to know?
Why is mental health so important for us to talk about?
That kind of goes along with the last question, and again, it is a great question. And it is so important because, certainly for men, we generally don't talk. We keep our feelings and our troubles bottled up inside, and that's where they become a problem. So much like I said to that last one, even just sometimes verbalising it, talking about this stuff, can give us a little bit of breathing space. It can take that pressure off. Everybody's got mental health. Everybody's got physical health. Some people's physical health is better than others. Some people's mental health is better than others. But we've all got it. It's just whether it's not so much in a good place at the moment. And again, like I said with that last question, talking about it is a massive, massive tool in that toolbox of being able to deal with things if you're having a bit of a rough time.
But I would ask you a different question before this question come up. I am here to listen to you, Andy, because I am one of the advocates of men's health and also about mental health also. So that's why I'm here to have a go at podcast with you.
Awesome, great stuff.
What kind of things do you do as an advocate, Adrian? What have you done in the past?
We have we take men's health here at Zonto Hall, in the hall, and we actually just have fun, really, and we actually play football for fun, and also there were stalls to look after your mental health, physical, emotional and mental well-being, to people will get help from this kind of thing.
All good stuff, yeah. Stuff like football, again, it's a team sport in it. People can get together and have a bit of fun, and that's what it's all about sometimes. And that in itself can be enough. You know, if somebody's going through a really rough time, getting together with mates can be a really good thing.
Yeah. Okay. If we feel someone we know might be struggling with mental health, what things can we do to help them?
So that is not easy, but it is a simple answer in that being supportive, letting them know that what they're going through currently is okay. You know, like I said before, we all struggle at time to times. I think the thing to remember is that a lot of people want to be able to say something. They want to be able to help, and sometimes you can't. But it can be enough for that person just for you to listen to them. Obviously, tell them about us. If it's a bloke over 18, tell them about Andy's Man Club. There is a lot of help services out there which people can access. If they start looking on the internet and things, you'd be surprised how many things you can actually find by way of support services. Sometimes you've got to carefully choose your moment when to have these conversations with people, but it is important that you do have those conversations. Like I said, I got involved with it in the first place for my son, and it actually took me 8 months from him having his really bad time to actually getting him along to Andy's Man Club, and a lot of that was being very careful with what I said, but also when I said it to him. So, you know, if it is somebody that a person knows, what I will say is you know that person far better than I do. So you've got to utilise what you do know about them and use that approach where it might fit best, where they might be willing to listen a bit more, but don't feel that you have to have something to say. Just listen can be enough.
Yeah. It could be explanation for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have any favourite stories from working at Andy's Men's Club?
Yeah, I do indeed. We've got to be a little bit careful because the groups themselves are all confidential. Anything that is said in the group stays in the group, and that's a big part of how it actually works. But actually, from working at this, like I said earlier, I do a lot of going into businesses and doing talks and things. Quite a few of those are building sites where it's your typical big burly hard blokes covered in tattoos and things and what have you. And quite often with those, you'll get a bunch of guys that are sort of sat there and having a bit of a laugh with each other and this, that, other. But then some of the best conversations I've had are at the end of those, where people will come up to me because they'll be able to relate to things that I've been speaking about. We can have some really good conversations. I've also made many friends over the years through association with Andy's Man Club and stuff, and built up that social side of things. I've had opportunities presented to me on a personal level through it. Like I say, I've been involved with the Halifax group, and we got involved. There's a local music festival over there. I'm actually now their official photographer for that music event through connections made and friendships formed throughout Andy's Man Club. So, yeah, there's lots of stuff that go on in a very positive manner off the back of people attending the groups.
Does that offer any disability features for man with learning disabilities or autism?
So what we don't do is specify for any particular area. But when we are setting up a club, what we do look at is it accessible to all? Is there things like wheelchair access? So we can be open to any man over 18 that is willing and able to partake in that. Like I say, it's peer-to-peer support. So it is questions and answers. So if a person is able to attend, is able to partake in that session, is able to answer the questions, join in with the conversations that are around it, then we are, we try our best to cater for everybody. But we're not in a position where we're able to specialise particularly, because if we picked out learning disabilities or autism, as you've exactly asked, we then have to say, well, can we cater equally for the deaf? Can we cater equally for the blind? So we try to be all-encompassing as far as possible.
Do you host any events or fundraisers for people who aren't members?
Yes and no, in simple form, although that's just complicated it. We don't actively fundraise ourselves because we are a suicide prevention charity. What we don't want to do is put that guilt on people feeling that they have to donate when they might not be able to afford it, so we don't fundraise. We are entirely run on donations, and we have just last year really actually started our own events, and we have an events team now. For the last several years we've been invited into other people's events, and that does still go on quite a lot. I know we've been invited into Keighley Cougars. They've had us along for match days quite regularly. If you ever get on there, you might well see our gazebo up in the ground somewhere. But our events, a lot of them at the moment in time are more physical type of things. So we do a lot of runs, 10k runs, park runs and things that we're involved in. Weekend before last it was a Great North Run where we had 500 people actually running on behalf of us. Some of those were staff members, some of those were volunteers, and some of them were just not members at all. They were just general public. All of that stuff gets put out on our social media channels. All the local groups have their own Facebook pages, certainly, which are public facing. They tend to share events and things on there. So if anybody wants to look into that stuff, by all means follow us on Facebook is probably the best one by far. So there's just all sorts of things going on throughout the year.
I'm holding an event in Keighley, and could you want to join us to have some fun with your members, to play football with us, or not?
There is a possibility, yes. Maybe what we'll do, let them know when the event is, what time and where. I can get in touch with, because we've just opened a group in Keighley a couple of months ago. So we have got facilitators there, we've got members there. When that event comes to us in the office, I can then share that with the guys and see if anybody's free on that day. It does depend, because Keighley are quite busy for us and they do quite a lot of things, so it does depend if there's anybody free at the time, but I can certainly ask the question by all means. And it's always great to get involved with stuff like that.
If one of your members is nervous to speak, what are you going to do to make you feel at ease to speak?
So it's kind of taken us a little bit back. At our groups, there's no pressure on anybody to talk at all. That's why we use the ball. So if I'm the facilitator, I've got the ball, I ask that first question, how's your week been? Especially if we've got new guys coming along, we tend to put them, we sit in a circle and we tend to put them towards the end of the circle. So as that ball's going round, if you don't want to talk, if you're not ready to start sharing, when that ball comes to you, all you do is pass it on to the next person. That's it, simple as. And that's part of the intro, what we go through, so that everybody knows that. So yeah, there's no pressure on anybody. What you do find though is, because we put the newer guys to the end, by the time it's gone round everybody else, it makes them feel a bit more at ease, so that they might be able to join in. But there's no pressure whatsoever.
Are there any ways to volunteer or help support the charity?
Yeah, much like that earlier question about the events and side of things. Now we're getting to the back end of the season, there's probably not going to be that much more around this year. But I mentioned things like the Great North Run. We always need people for marshalling, just lining the route, cheering the runners on and things like that. We do the Yorkshire Three Peaks. It tends to be an annual one. So again, there's a lot of support with that, whether it's just, we'll set up tables around to hand people bottles of water. And again, anything like that will go out on our social media. So when those events are coming up, if anybody wants to get in touch to offer assistance, same email, info@andysmanclub.co.uk.
What would you say to man thinking about joining Andy's Man Club? How can you join?
So we'll take the last bit first. How can you join? Literally just turn up. Nobody needs to make appointments. You don't need to book in. There's no waiting lists either for our groups. All our clubs, no matter where anybody in the country might be, all our clubs are listed on our website, which is www.andysmanclub.co.uk. And there's a tab on that website that says Find Your Nearest Group. When you click on that, it brings up a map. You can put your own location in it. So if you're in Keighley, whatever your postcode is, put that up and it will bring up your nearest groups. So we have got Keighley, we have got Baildon, we have got Ilkley, as I mentioned earlier, that we've just opened. They all run the same time. They're normally open from about 6:30, just so that everybody can get in and grab a cup of tea or whatever. 7 o'clock is when we start, 9 o'clock is when we finish. Just let me flip that back over, sorry. And then, so the first part of it, what would you say to anybody thinking about actually joining? That's simple. Give it a go. It might be exactly what you've been looking for. You know, like I say, I've been around over 7 years. I've been going to Andy's Man Club and I think it's fantastic. We actually get, across the country and online, we get over 6,000 men using our groups every week. So it definitely does work if it's the right fit for the right person. You know what I mean? I tend to ask, if I get asked that question, I try to turn it into another question. And I say, what have you got to lose? That's the answer to that question. What have you got to lose? At the end of the day, you're going to get a free brew. You're going to get a free biscuit. Maybe even 2 if you're lucky. And it's 2 hours of your life you ain't getting back. No big deal there, is there?
That's all the time we have on today's show. We like to say thank you to Andy before joining us today and give us a lot of information about Andy's Men Cup. It is very important that everyone knows the support is available in their area if they need it, and how to get that support. Andy, do you have anything else you would like to say before we end the show?
Just quickly to say thank you very much for having us in. I probably should have said earlier as well, if anybody's fancying attending Keighley group, our group here is held at Project 6 on Devonshire Street. Yeah, the guys will be there tonight from 6:30ish. There is quite a few stairs in that one, though, so just to be forewarned.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Andrew.
Remember to comment, like and share on Facebook, Instagram and X. You can find us by searching for the People First Podcast. Thank you for listening and we'll see you next time.